Teach your children the truth. White folks, try every single thing you should do and teach your kids the truth. Because one of the problems we're having right now, that we're suffering right now, is the fact that a lot of you refuse to teach your children the truth as white people. Instead of telling them this is how things are supposed to go, you give them another lecture entirely. And of which that has been one of the major reasons that a lot of things is going south. But anyways, I have this white man and other clip that I actually want you guys to watch, and also watch how some of these white kids literally expose some hidden, shocking facts to black people. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sonia. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Credit belongs to original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And with that being said, let's dive right into this video. I'll be back with commentaries. Let's go watch, guys.
The data says, and it does, that white folks on average have 15 times the net worth of black folks, 13 times the net worth of Latino folk, right? We just assume, well, we must have worked harder. Is that right? That's interesting, because actually the black folks and brown folks have done some of the hardest work in this country ever since the country was founded. Were it not for the labor of African descended peoples, there would be no country at all. In fact, it was my family, white slave owning family in the South, that got black folks to do all the hard work because we were lazy asses and didn't want to work at all. White folks in the South on the plantation used to want to sit on the porch and drink mint juleps and have carriage rides rather than work, while black folks did all the real labor. And yet we decided that black folks are lazy, which I find fascinating. Right? And then people write to me and say, well, these black people, they're just taking all the jobs. Okay, which is it, precious? Because it can't be both. People of color can't take all the jobs and be lazy. I don't ask much of racists because I expect very little, but you cannot be lazy and take all the jobs. Are we at least clear on that? Like, if you took all the jobs, you are like the opposite of lazy. If you are indeed lazy, you probably did not even take one job, let alone all of them. So I just need racists to get their damn story straight. That's all I ask. I just don't like moving targets. That's all, right? But if I don't tell my daughter the truth, she defaults to the position of the culture, and then she can't understand what the problem is. The same is true with policing. You can't understand the Black Lives Matter movement and the importance of it if you don't know the history and the relationship between law enforcement and black and brown peoples. If you understood that history, you wouldn't ask one question about why this movement is necessary and why it's righteous. If you knew that history, but you don't know it, and it's not your fault. You weren't supposed to know it, and nobody taught it to you, right? So you don't have to know that modern policing traces back to slave patrols. That black folks' first experience with law enforcement was having, you know who? Working class and poor white folks on horseback going around keeping black folks in line on behalf of the rich master that owned all the property. That sounds a lot like modern policing, because ain't no rich people policing, right? It's working class folks who are out there protecting the property of rich people against the depredations of poor people. That's what modern policing is, and it traces back. And we know that's what modern policing is, by the way, because we will lock you up for 10 years for $100 worth of food stamp fraud. But if you take $12.5 trillion on Wall Street, 20% of the net worth of this country, you will not do one day in jail. So we know that law enforcement has got nothing to do with enforcing the law. It's got nothing to do with good people and bad people, lawbreakers and the law abiding. It only has to do with controlling certain people. And black and brown folks know it was cops who were involved in race riots and racial terrorism against black communities for the first 50 years of the 20th century. You didn't learn about that in class either, and that's not your fault. It wasn't taught. But in fact, every single year, just about from 1900 all the way to the 1930s, 1940s at least, there were race riots where white folks would just go into black communities, burn them to the ground, bomb them from the air, like in Tulsa, Oklahoma, rip people out of their homes, beat them in the street, and police sat by, watched it happen, and participated. That doesn't mean that every cop in the modern era is like that, but it means that black folks can be excused for being not so clear on the decency of police in their communities because there's a history there. It was police who dragged black folks and white allies off of those sit-in stools at lunch counters in the South to enforce segregation. See, when your job is to enforce the law, and for most of American history, the law was against you as a people, then enforcing the law means you are the first line of oppression. People of color know that history and need to be excused when they don't just get over it, because that continues. How do we know it continues? Very easy. We know from the data on racial profiling that black folks are twice as likely as white folks to be stopped and searched for drugs, even though white folks are more likely to have drugs on us on the occasions that we're searched. White folks use drugs and sell drugs at the same or higher rate than black folks and Latinos, and yet it is black folks and Latinos who in any given year make up 85 to 90% of the people who get arrested and incarcerated for a drug offense. See, people of color know that. And if we don't understand when black folks rise up and say Black Lives Matter. Well, what do you mean? Black? All lives matter. Yes, sweetheart, I know they do. Yes, they do. And that is a totally irrelevant and unnecessary point to make. You see, you don't have to say all lives matter. We take that for granted. What we've never accepted in this country is that black and brown life matter. You have to proclaim that which is ignored, you see. That's why we have Black History Month right now and not White History Month. We don't have to have the White History Month because we got May and June and July and August. And every other month where we learn about white folks, we don't have to call it that. See how slick that is? That's how white supremacy operates. You don't have to call it White History Month. You just call it history, and literature, and theater, and poetry, and art. You don't have to racialize where it came from, right? That's what Malefi Asante at Temple calls universalizing the particular, which is the hallmark of Eurocentric thought, right? Not everybody's experience is the same. And so when certain people have been left out of all, you have to call that out by name. Because see, we've always said all, then we didn't mean it. We said all men are created equal, and we didn't mean that shit, right? We didn't mean women, but we didn't even mean all men. We said all, and it was a lie when we said it. Right? And so in a sense, when you say Black Lives Matter, to respond with all lives matter would be like going in a time machine back to 1971. Y'all won't remember this. Those who were students, those who were older will. Around 1970, 71, 72, the big phrase was black is beautiful, right? There was this desire to take back the beauty narrative from a beauty industry, fashion industry, glamour industry that had hijacked it and denigrated black physicality and beauty, right? So folks were saying black is beautiful to reclaim a sense of beauty for themselves. It'd be like getting in a time machine, going back to 1971, hearing somebody say black is beautiful and tapping them on the shoulder and going, but we're all beautiful in our own way. Yes, shut up, we know. Not the point. It'd be like going back to the early 80s when the HIV/AIDS crisis started. And it took several years for the president of the United States to even utter the word. Ronald Reagan didn't want to even utter the word, let alone cut loose with funding to deal with the problem, until his buddy Rock Hudson died of it. And then all of a sudden he was willing to talk about it a little bit, right? So for the first several years, what'd you have? You had activists out in the street. You had ACT UP, gay men's health crisis, out in the street demanding research and funding for HIV/AIDS, right? And what they were saying in effect was people with AIDS lives matter. That wasn't the actual phrase, and we didn't have hashtags, but that was essentially what they were saying, right? People with AIDS lives matter, and we need to pay attention, because right now we're not paying attention to that. And we don't seem to believe it as a society, so we need to start believing it. It would be like getting in a time machine, going back to 1983, 82, in the middle of an ACT UP event or a gay men's health crisis event, and shutting down the protest by saying, yeah, but what about pancreatic cancer? People die of all kinds of things, right? Sort of not the point. You have to proclaim that which is ignored. And if we know the history, we understand that, right? Because if we know the history, we know that it is indeed black life, and I would suggest brown life, life of color generally, indigenous life, that is usually denigrated, demeaned, ignored. On a sexual level, it's trans lives that are demeaned, ignored, right? It's women as women. So sometimes you got to proclaim that which is not in the obvious frame of reference. There's nothing pernicious about it. It's not about saying black lives are worth more than other lives. It's about, damn it, these lives actually do matter. And even though the history says they don't, we're here to tell you that they do. And there's nothing wrong about that at all. But if you don't know the history, it might seem untoward. And I get it. And again, it's not your fault that you don't know the history, but it is our responsibility to learn it and then apply it to what we see. Same is true with immigration. This immigration drama that we have right now is only possible because we don't understand our own history. As a country, and particularly those of us of European descent, we have lied to ourselves about how we got here and for what reason. See, black folks know why they're here. Native peoples know why they're here and how they got here. A lot of Asian folk know, particularly if they're Chinese American, they know they got here because their ancestors were brought over to work on the railroads by the railroad barons who didn't care if thousands of them died laying track 19, 20 hours a day. But for those of us who are from Europe, we have this fiction that we've told, and we believe it, even though there's no truth to it. You know what the fiction's coming over the border with regard to immigrants coming over, but only that border. That's the only one we care about, right? The southern border. I find that interesting. We're not flipping out about Canada, right? We don't have any of the Minutemen or the anti-immigrant groups sitting off the coast of Nova Scotia with a gun and a scope trying to like pick off the sneaky Canadians that are trying to sneak in here for our superior healthcare system, which after all would be a pretty stupid thing to do. But in any event, we only care about that one border, forgetting for a minute that that border was created at the end of a war that was started on false pretense by this country, after which we jacked half of their country. And you weren't taught that in school either, because our history books aren't interested in telling the truth. They tell this very patriotic history that has no relationship to the fact. So that border is artificial. Mexican folk who are coming here, documented or not, let's be clear, are coming home. Their families were here before our families were here in almost every instance. But we forget that, and then we say things like, well, I don't mind them coming. I just want them to come legally like my people did. The hell does that even mean? Come legally? There was no law to break when our people came. The fact that we didn't break a law that didn't even exist, you don't get cookies for that. You don't get like a pat on the back and a gold star because your great, great, great whatever was law abiding when there was no law that he could have violated, even if he wanted to. But we've told this lie that we came for these upstanding principles. So we'll say things like, well, you know, our people came for liberty and freedom, democracy. These people are just coming for stuff. They're just coming for jobs. They're just coming for health care. They're just coming for stuff. We came for high-minded principle, right? Because we believe that. What kind of third-grade version of American history is that, right? Like when Donald Trump says, well, Mexico's not sending their best. What the hell, you think Europe sent their best? Europe, no, our people were the losers of Europe. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, our people were the losers of Europe. The winners didn't get on the boat. You understand what I'm saying? The winners didn't leave. Why the hell would you leave if you were winning? Only the losers left because they had no choice. They were dying. They were starving. They couldn't support their families. A lot of them were convicts who were sold into indentured servitude to work for rich European people. They were barely above the level of a slave themselves. The idea that we had these we didn't believe in liberty and freedom. And we know that because once we got to the colonies, we set up the opposite of liberty and freedom. And I don't just mean that for like black folks and native folks. I mean, even for other white folks. Like, we spent most of the time in the early colonies trying to figure out who the witch was, right? It was like, well, you're not a Christian. Well, no, you're not a Christian. Well, no, you're not a Christian. I'm going to hang you from a tree. Really? Well, I'm going to drown you in the stream. Well, I'm going to set you on fire. Like, that wasn't liberty. The colonies were some of the least free places in the history of the cosmos. But we act like we came for liberty, and they're just here to take advantage. Let's be clear. Our people didn't come for liberty. They came for stuff.
I had a couple black friends I used to play with, and if I was over one of their houses, around dinner time, the mother would say, are you supposed to be home for dinner? I'd say, well, I guess so, you know. She said, well, that's all right. I'll call your mother and tell you you're going to stay here for dinner. And my mother would do the same thing at our house. You know, if they were there playing with me, we'd eat dinner. And we never thought about it. We were integrated before integration ever became the fad, so to speak.
She's a rare species of animal.
Why is she a rare species? Is it because she's a baby?
Yeah, mostly. And she has different color skin than us, so that's mostly.
Everything's racist. Think about it. Your streets are named after prominent racists in your city, state, or throughout history. Washington, Jackson, Jefferson, Lee. All slaveholders, all racists. Your schools, elementary, middle, and high school, are named after prominent members of your community who are probably racists. Take mine, for example. My middle school was named after Forrest Comer White, a white supremacist who tried to commit murder-suicide by airplane, and our school mascot was a Confederate rebel. Even your institutions of higher learning have their roots in racism. Harvard, Yale, and Brigham Young University is named after racist Brigham Young, who tried to eradicate Native Americans by poisoning them. Traffic, Racism. Instead of building highways in the most efficient ways, they ran them specifically through black and brown neighborhoods, and now we have traffic because of that. Seasonal allergies? Racism. It's the beautification of the white parts of town with only male trees that continuously pop off pollen with no female trees to absorb them. That's why you have seasonal allergies. Racism. Tipping? Racism. White store owners didn't want to pay black employees anything, so they said, if your service is good, leave it up to the customer to pay you, and that's how we got tipping. Student loans? Racism. College used to be free. That is until black people started going to college, and then now you have to pay, and if you can't pay, you take out a student loan. The prohibition on cannabis. Racism. You see, it used to be legal. That is until white people wanted to demonize Mexicans, so they renamed cannabis marijuana, spelled with an H, to sound like Tijuana, so they could justify the mistreatment of Mexican people. That Ford truck you drive? Racism. Henry Ford was so racist that Hitler had a picture of him at his desk. He was inspired by the efficiency of his assembly line and used that efficiency to efficiently kill more people. He also got the inspiration for his gas chambers from America's gassing and delousing of Mexican migrants at the border. Argentina is 96% white because of racism. Mexico is known as a mestizo country because of racism. And brown people all around the world are bleaching their skin because of racism's twin sister, colorism. Cancer rates in the South? Racism. You see, they like to build petrochemical plants near black and brown neighborhoods, thus giving us higher rates of cancer than those around us. Matter of fact, right here in Louisiana, Mossville, Louisiana, used to be a thriving black town founded by black people, but it was later bought out by a petrochemical plant and bulldozed. Racism. It affects every part of our daily lives, and until we acknowledge that, we can't change it, because we can't change what we refuse to acknowledge. And that's why racism continues to thrive in this country, because we've raised generations of people to be willfully ignorant of it.
In the city of Henderson, Nevada, unless you are white or LDS, the city does not want you there. I know this firsthand because I was an officer for that city, and I'm telling you, they treat minorities like shit. Through TikTok, I have received many messages from people in the DA's office, the Henderson Justice Court, Henderson Municipal Court, the Henderson Police Department, sergeants, lieutenants, captain, and they all say the same shit. Behind closed doors, the city of Henderson is racist. The Henderson Police Department is so racist, the city manager, Richard Derrick, had to send out an internal memo to the Henderson Police Department restricted email stating that racism will not be tolerated. City manager Richard Derrick was forced to send out this memo after he saw a white Henderson correctional officer standing next to the former police chief, Andres, who is black, by the way, at a recent academy graduation. And in that picture, that white correctional officer, he was throwing up some hand gestures that are inappropriate of white power. And what did the new Henderson police chief do? Holly Chadwick? Absolutely nothing. The new Henderson police chief, Holly Chadwick, she's one of them. Just like Officer Kevin Lapierre, Officer Cochran, Officer Hargis, and this correctional officer, they all belong to the same club. And what does she do? Instead of firing them, she changed internal policy to keep them on the force. Henderson police officer Kevin Lapierre, he was in the same unit as the new chief and the problem-solving unit, and they were buds. HPD officer Kevin Lapierre went through an internal affairs investigation and had many sustained allegations of racism, saying things like, if I didn't have a family, I would unalive Black Lives Matter protesters, effing Mexicans, they need to be unalived, so on and so forth. And again, they were all sustained allegations. And then you have Henderson police officer Cochran. Her and Chief Holly Chadwick are buds. You want to know why? Because the chief even went to her wedding recently. Now, she was drinking and driving and crashed within the city of Henderson. When Henderson police officers were dispatched to the scene, they tried to cover it up for her. At first, she said that her girlfriend was driving. Untruthful. And then later, she changed her story and said that her male friend was driving. He actually came to the scene, which also was untruthful. And even the witness that was there was saying something fishy was going on. Her internal affairs investigation proved that she was lying, but she didn't get fired. And then you have Officer Gary Hargis. He is the HPOA president. He should know better. What did he do? He left the HPOA drunk. Why do I say drunk? Because there was another officer in that HPOA who saw him. He got into his personal vehicle, drove off, and hit a motorcyclist. After he hit the motorcyclist, he went straight to his house and barricaded himself in there. The witness followed Gary Hargis to his home, and once 911 was involved, behind the scenes they contacted him and told him a whole slew of things to not answer the door because officers were on their way. Officers attempted to make contact, and of course, unsuccessfully. The next morning they went to his home and he lied and said that he was in bed by 10:30. But there's surveillance evidence saying, nope, that's untruthful, and plus that officer that was at the HPOA saw him personally. All these officers had administrative due process, and every single one of them came back with sustained allegation of untruthfulness. And just recently, an Asian officer was let go from the HPD. Why? I don't know yet, but I'm gonna find out. But you see, Chief Holly Chadwick, all she does, if you're a minority, you're gone. But if you're white or LDS, you're staying put. She would even go to lengths to change internal policy for human resources and keep these people on the department. I'm truly ashamed that I ever wore this uniform. As a matter of fact, here, if anybody wants it, hit me up.
The world doesn't respect black people because we haven't done enough crimes against humanity. And I will explain. So tell me if I'm crazy, tell me if I crack the code. I have stumbled upon another TikTok of this time an African-American woman. It's always African-American people being discriminated against, being followed around, having to deal with slurs in countries that we don't even visit that much, countries that we have little to no history with. And we're constantly asking in the comments, what the fuck did we do? What did we do? We didn't do anything to them. And I think that's the issue, is that we haven't done anything to them. I'm starting to think that these different countries, these different continents only respect crazy crimes against humanity, and we have yet to do that. Like Japan, for example. Japanese people tend to have a respect and a reverence for the same group of people who did Hiroshima. Yet we're an issue, right? I feel like we don't get respect the same way that henchmen don't get respect on Batman. You feel me? It's like just a quick little obstacle to get over. There's much more reverence and much more thought going into and much more time taken to figure out how to take down Joker, how to take down Penguin, how to take down Clayface, because they're a bigger threat and there's more story to them. No one gives a fuck about the henchmen and their little petty crimes. Batman just swoops in, breaks their arm, and leaves. And I think that's the issue. If you notice, when people complain about black people, they're always saying, you guys are always looting and loitering and shooting at each other. You're all gangbangers and da-da-da-da. And mind you, all those are crimes against each other. We don't go outside of our neighborhoods and fuck with other people that don't look like us. If we're gangbanging against somebody who looks just like us on the other side of the same neighborhood. It's never us affecting other people, and I think that doesn't get us respect. Why would I respect people that are stealing out of stores, stealing out of malls, stealing out of gas stations, when my people steal whole countries? We steal people. We steal your ideas. We steal your children and sell them off, and I'm supposed to respect you because you stole a fucking candy bar? You're small time. And I think the moment that we start getting up and, ooh, let me be quiet, I'm saying too much, but you get what I'm saying.
Especially because that's my home country. I wasn't brought up that way. I was brought up to love everyone.
Right.
Okay, all I want is love. Although I don't even know what's in him. I don't know what he was thinking. Because in my school, guys, I mostly get the blame for anything, no matter if someone does something to me first. All I'm saying is, white people need to change. And my mom and dad didn't bring me up that way. Brought me up that way. We're supposed to love all of each other. Even if we're not siblings, even if we're not friends, you can't treat someone else because of their skin color.
Wow.
It's unfair. Okay, what if I treated you that way? Okay, all I can say is that black people get the worst treatment.
And I'm sorry again that, someone made you feel like, it's alright. I love you, Malachi. Someone made you feel like, oh, you're a piece of, mud or something. No, you're not. You have your own family and you're loved by your family. Okay? Just remember that.
You listening to that?
Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed all of that video that I was able to roll out for you guys. And the honest truth is, one of the major reasons why we're literally suffering right now, seeing a lot of people in East, West, North, and South, and a lot of things are going south, it is because some of these white folks can literally not teach their children the right thing. Now, let it make sense to me that children are just in a court playing, and because you see a baby, you now say that, oh, she is a rare species of animal. If that should be my child, I would have just corrected that child immediately. With the African mother inside of me, I would have unleashed on that child, you know. But a lot of them would just laugh about it. And a child cannot just wake up one morning and just say that out of his mouth without him hearing his parents or his aunties or his grandma or anybody around him saying that. So for that child to be able to air out and said, oh, she is a rare species, it simply means they have over time been hearing their parents, their guardians, their nephews, their niece that are older than them saying the same exact thing. And that is why I will keep still applauding that you teach your children the right thing so that the society can be a better place. Now, look at the other video where you have to see a black kid where he was literally lamenting that he was brought up with love and he was not taught to hate anybody. That was actually a kudos. That was a black woman or a black man teaching his children the right thing. You understand? I don't know why it's a normal thing now that we now see kids trying to be racist as well. Instead of them be brought up in a generation that is supposed to be loved, that they are supposed to understand. They grow with this anger inside of them. They grow with every single thing that they have been able to feed them when right from the days that they were small. And this point right now that we are is now becoming the point where we have to suffer for you not to train your child the right way. And that is why I will literally appreciate every single white person that has the audacity, that has the mind to bring out videos, root out videos, said a lot of things that he literally understand, just like the first clip I was able to roll out. That man, in everything that he said, he has never defected from the truth. A lot of them know the truth and keep it to themselves. A lot of them don't even want you to even know that they actually know the truth. And sometimes I keep wondering, for how long do you keep hiding the truth? Even if you don't want to hide the truth away from, even if you want to hide the truth away from yourself, why not educate the next generation of the truth that you know? So a lot of lies have been told. A lot of children mindset has been changed. And that is why every single person will act, and they'll continue to act when they are old. And you now start wondering, where is all of this coming from? It is the way they were literally brought up. So I don't know if there's any white person watching me. Please learn to educate your children in schools, in classes, at home. Let them understand what respect is all about. Let them understand the right truth. It's as simple as that. It's not that difficult. And kudos to all of those black parents that are trying every single possible means to make sure that their children are well behaved outside, honestly. Is a very big win. I can't lie. Because it's not easy. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section. Credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in at this episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And yes, guys, with that being said, with no further ado, like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Bye.